Hello, welcome back to Elle's Cozy Corner, where I've been reading The Vampires Next Door, one chapter at a time. We are now up to chapter 2. I do apologize for not doing this yesterday. I was in St. Augustine for the weekend. Unfortunately, it wasn't very nice. It was windy and rainy. It just wasn't good for, taking videos or pictures for that matter. But I will go on a nice sunny day sometime in the future, and I'll upload a video of some of the cool places to see and some of the places that are even mentioned in the book. So here we are, chapter 2. Allison. Allison yanked the earbuds out of her ears and listened. The knocking stopped. The music stopped, and muffled voices drifted through the hall. Throwing off her covers, she hurried towards the dining room window, attempting to catch a glimpse. All she saw was the black-clothed, burly back of a police officer scolding her neighbors. "We've had complaints. This is a residential area, and we're going to have to ask you to keep the music down," the officer said in a deep voice. Across the hall, Rodham's ebony face appeared. Through the parted blinds, his sable eyes met her amber orbs, locking them in a gaze. "He noticed me," thought Allison, the ambiguous girl whom he hadn't paid 1 ounce of attention to all summer. Warmth tingled through her body, and she all but forgot about her matted bedhead and Tinkerbell pajamas. The expanded second lock gaze ended, and he dropped his blinds back into place. She twirled her body away from the window and, in a dreamy state, leaned against the wall. Thoughts of the day she followed him to the beach flitting through her head. She'd poised herself under an umbrella, sprayed FPS 130 over her entire pale body, placed a floppy hat on her head, and watched him with stars in her eyes from behind the pages of her book, while pretty girls with dream bodies in their bikinis flocked towards him like bees to honey. His brown skin velvet beneath the sun. She pushed her book beyond the hidden sky over her face and read, catching glimpses of Rodham in her one piece with a baggy t-shirt to cover her jelly stomach. She didn't think she compared to the other teens. She peeled herself off the wall and strolled to her bedroom. He noticed me. Sinking her into her bed, she savored their moment in her mind. Silence next door. She fell asleep. Sun flitted through the window, awaking her in the morning. She crept towards her mother's room, peeking around the corner of her open door. She lay in her bed, burrito wrapped inside the covers, feet poking out the end. Allison sighed relief that her mother was home. She'd grown used to her absence at night and had felt safe enough until last night. Her stomach grumbling for food, she strolled into the kitchen, poured a bowl of cereal, and ate while she turned on her tablet and continued reading her current book. Hours later, her mother stretched her arms as she exited her bedroom and ambled into the kitchen. With a yawn, she said, "Good morning, sweetie." Peeling her eyes from her tablet and current fictional world, Allison acknowledged her mother from her prone position on the couch and lifted her eyes, responding, "Hi, Mom. I fixed lunch, frozen lasagna and garlic bread." "What did I ever do to get such a wonderful daughter?" She spied Allison's tablet. "I love all the reading you do. It helps the mind grow, but I hate seeing you inside all day, every day. That's why we bought you the car, so you could get out, explore your new surroundings, meet new people. This is St. Augustine, the oldest city in the U.S. There's more than enough to keep you busy and entertained." She gently pushed Ellis's legs towards the back of the cushion of the couch and sat, pecking her on the cheek. Allison's parents had bought her a 2000 Corolla. Not a bad first car. In fact, she thought it was an excellent first car. Everything worked. The problem was they lived in Florida, and she detested starting the car and setting the air conditioning to full blast for 10 minutes before she could sit in it without melting or touch the steering wheel without second-degree burns. Her next problem was the friend issue. As an introverted book nerd, it took her years to build relationships. She had Vicky. That was it. Her only friend. She anticipated she'd be spending the next 2 years in high school alone. Allison's phone vibrated and she glanced at the message. Vicky responding to her late night text. "Miss you. Talk to you later. School shopping." She wished she was in Virginia shopping with a friend the way they'd done the past few years, since the parents deemed them old enough to wander the mall without 24/7 parental supervision. "I miss Vicky. My high school, the mountains, the cooler night air." Her mother sighed and brushed her hand through Allison's hair. "Honey, I know this is difficult for you, but your dad travels a lot. I was offered a job here. This is our new home." School starts next week. Try and make some friends. I know, I'll try. She bit her upper lip. And when the weather gets cooler, I'll explore the city. After her parents' divorce, her mother, who'd spent 16 years as a stay-at-home mom, dusted off her nursing degree and sent her resume all over the U.S., hoping to land a job. She did, in St. Augustine, to Ellison's bad fortune. Her mother stood and wandered towards the kitchen, cutting a slice of lasagna and placing it on a plate, then sighed as she popped it in the microwave. I've been working a lot, paying moving expenses. Once they're paid, we'll do some exploring together. Facing away from her mother, Ellison rolled her eyes and shrugged. The only exploring they'd done together was watching an IMAX movie at World Golf Village. And it was an excellent outing, but other than that, her mother constantly worked. Ellison was old enough to understand child support didn't pay everything. She also understood her parents continued an amiable relationship, if nothing else than for her, and her father would do more to help them out. Her mother, proud and stubborn, refused any money other than the court-dictated amount. She contemplated telling her mother about the neighbors, but chose against it, assuming it was a one-night thing. As soon as the sun went down, the neighbors' thumping music and partying began, growing louder as the night progressed. She built up the nerve to walk to her front door, replaying what she'd say in her mind. As she turned the knob, she chickened out. Her anger inside recoiled, and she stuck her earbuds in her ear and read instead. After midnight, a thump hit her bedroom wall. She leaped off the couch in response. The decorative Asian fan above her head shifted. Several more thumps followed, sounding like a body thrown against the wall. She stood in the doorway, expecting someone to burst through the wall any second. A shrill, banshee scream shuddered through the air, piercing her eardrums and vibrating through her head. In pain, Ellison crumpled to the floor, holding her head between her hands. Frozen in pain, she gripped the floor and dragged her body along it to the couch, reached her phone onto the cushion, and fumbled for her phone. Then the noise stopped. Her fingers brushed against her phone, and she snatched it up. Poised on the floor, she scrolled through her short phone log and redialed the emergency number, then buried herself into the couch, encasing her shivering body in a throw blanket. Rodham. At that moment, in his room, playing Wii, a primitive wail sliced through the music, ringing in Rodham's ears. He doubled in pain and curled into a ball, dropping the video game controller from his hand. When the noise subsided, Rodham collected himself. Unable to shrug it off, he contemplated where the noise originated. Thoughts of his strange neighbors and the odd events, including the strange visions, circulated in his head. In the living room, he joined his parents, their eyes fixed on the TV as they watched a movie, closed captioning scrolling across the screen. Noticing her son's befuddled look, his mother said, "Is everything okay?" He shifted his eyes to hers. "Did you hear that?" His father chuckled. "2 nights in a row? I've already called the sheriff and will make a complaint at the office in the morning." Rodham shrugged and leaned back onto the recliner, convinced his parents didn't hear the shrill scream or couldn't hear it over the pulsating music. In science class, he learned that young adults were capable of hearing frequencies adult ears can't hear. Within half an hour, a police officer knocked on the neighbor's door, read them the "Be Quiet" act, and the noise stopped. The following 2 nights, the neighbors' partying after sunset continued. Determined to understand the strange sequence of events, Rodham slipped upstairs to the second-floor balcony, found a dark corner, and waited. He wanted to know, see everything. His visions and the noise told him something was very wrong. No matter how absurd it sounded, even in his own head, his curiosity drove him forward. The crackle of the police radio hummed before he saw the 2 officers. Within moments, a female officer with a blonde bob cut and wide hips, along with a male, his paunchy gut swelling over his pants, rounded the corner. The man slipped a piece of chewing gum into his mouth, stuffing the wrapper into his pockets, and chomped. His high and tight hairstyle moved up and down with the motion. They knocked on the door, and a woman with blonde highlights contrasting against her brown hair opened it. She leaned against the door frame, her long legs flowing like silk from her short denim skirt. "Hello, officers." "Ma'am, 4 nights in a row, we've been called to this location for the same reason. I think we need to have a discussion with you and your roommate." His head bobbed as he glanced around at the inside of the apartment. From Rodham's position, he couldn't see inside, but not willing to give away his position, he stayed put. A crooked, sinister smile crossed her oval face, and she waved the officers in. Her eyes darted right, then left, scoping the breezeway before she closed the door. In the dark corner, Rodham waited. The music stopped, but he never saw the police leave. Fear rushed against his spine, and he leaped down the stairs, taking two at a time, and thrust his front door open. His parents looked at him, wearing identical expressions of puzzlement. He ignored them, locked the door, and parted the blinds enough to peek out with one eye. "What's going on?" questioned his father as he walked towards him. "Police are here again. 2 of them tonight. They went inside the apartment." Young, irresponsible, spoiled girls is all. "The parents probably pay for the apartment to get them out of their own home," he harumphed. "Now that noise has stopped, we're heading to bed." "Good night," answered Rodham, his eyes still fixated on the apartment across the hall. He knew from the tone in his father's voice. He questioned his actions, but not enough to figure them out after 4 sleepless nights. Their neighbor's blinds were parted slightly, allowing him to see the woman with highlighted hair, the one who opened the door, staring into the male officer's eyes, and brushed her fingers against his neck. She opened her mouth. Fangs erupted from her gums. Rodham's eyes widened as he watched the man's blood vessels bulge from beneath his skin and pulsate as the blood pumped through his arteries. She tilted her head and sunk her fangs into his flesh. A drop of blood trailed down his neck and under his shirt. Her eyes shifted towards Rodham, who stumbled backwards and blinked his eyes, the blinds falling into place, his heartbeat steady and fast inside his chest as he struggled to catch his breath. And that is the end of chapter 2. Stay tuned next week for chapter 3, and we'll find out more about what happens with Rodham Ellison and these insane, blood-sucking neighbors.